Welcome back to another lovely episode of Horror Hour Hysteria. I'm your boy Duality, and this is my podcast and vlog. But before we get into it, what's giving your real name, running from house to house, and religious cults have to do with each other? It's the movie The Gates, featuring Mason Gooding and James Vanderbeek. R.I.P. my mans. Before I get into it, the movie did not end how I expected the movie to end. I thought the movie was going to end in a completely different light, and I'm kind of happy with the outcome. Believe it or not, this was not a show and tell. It's not as publicized because it's not a super big movie, but when I tell you that if you like that action suspense, that type of horror thriller that is going to not necessarily play into stereotypes, but also attacks things from a different lens, this is a movie for you. So what is it? What is this movie about? It's about three friends that take a road trip and there's a gridlock freeway. They see there's an alternate route. They take the alternate route and they ended up in this gated community. Before I get into spoilers, I just want to let you guys know that this movie did justice to James Vanderbeek. I hope that they give him an award, some type of award in his honor next year when this movie goes. I hope this movie goes further than what it went. And I do think that once it hits a streaming platform like Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or HBO Max, that is going to gain a lot more traction because obviously we know that traditional movies and medias, they're not the same. So this is your only spoiler warning. If you're the type of person who doesn't like spoilers, don't swipe away, pause, come back when you've seen the movie. But I'm gonna get into it. So the movie takes place with three friends. There is Kevin, Derek, and Ty. And Ty's the athlete. Ty is pretty chill throughout the movie, but he's logical. The scholar is Derek. Our boy Mason Gooding plays his character very well. He is a scholarship individual and he is going to school for law. And then there's Kevin, happens to be the young black man that everyone would view as the person who's aggressive and angry and misguided, but he's not necessarily. How the movie starts off is Derek's at home chilling. He's like, I gotta be back home. I gotta take care of my mom. And then Ty hits him up like, hey, we need to go to this party. Derek's like, okay, man, we can go to a party, one drink. It turns into something else. You know when you're with your friends and your friends are like, come out with me. Well, the party that they're supposed to go to is apparently a couple hours away. Then they convince Kevin to come with them. And apparently Kevin works at a dealership, so he's driving this nice Charger, this nice Dodge Charger. And, you know, Derek's not dumb. He's like, whose car is that? He's like, and then they get in the car and apparently Derek and Kevin don't really get along very well, and Ty is like that middle ground. So they get on the phone, they chatting with some girls. The girls happen to be some bad little witches, you know, replace the W with a B, and kind of get the guys horned up. And they're like, okay, cool. So before they leave Kevin's like cul-de-sac, which is a nice cul-de-sac, but you find out that the movie The Gates takes place in a even more upper echelon cul-de-sac. So like, this puts his home to shame. His home is bigger than most homes that you'll ever see because everything's bigger in Texas. But basically, the cop who pulls him over, or who pulls over Kevin, is like, you got temporary plates. He's like, they legal, and they're going back and forth. So in the movie, in that moment, if you communicate, you'll get more, essentially, people behind you. And homeboy like, nah, man, F, that ain't the truth, did it? Like, you just feeding into it. He didn't like us. So all I'll say is, it was kind of interesting to see that moment. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a plot point. Well, you know, like I said, they're driving down the road and it's gridlocked. All of a sudden, pop up, boom, there's another route. They take the route, which is Farm Road 106. You should have known that it was going to be some mess. So they go to this place and it's this big iron gates. There's two. And there's a lady in this red sports vehicle. I mean, it's potentially, I think, if I recall, it's a Corvette. And all of a sudden, Kevin's like, hey, you know, he plays his boyish charm, like, hey, can you let us in? Bruh. She opens it up. You can tell she's drinking, and they get into this gay community, and it's not at all what you think it is. Originally a fun full of people who are not of their race, of the black race, and you don't see many people of color in this community. There's mainly just the majority, not the minority. And when I tell you, like, there were some very racist stereotypes, and there were some very like things that would probably make the majority cringe. There were things that made the minority cringe. There were things that made my main like, okay, I see what they're playing up here. Although there was this one woman, and we'll get to her, that helped Kevin. But what happens is they see James Vanderbeek, and James Vanderbeek's character's name is Jacob Andrews. I can't remember if it's Andrew or Andrews. I'm going to get better at that, guy, so I apologize. But in short, they see him unalive a woman. And the woman that he unalives, they're trying to find help. The three boys are running from house to house, hence why I said, what does running from house to house have to do with anything? And when they're running from house to house, this kid comes out, like, get off of my property. What are you guys doing here? And like, kid, he takes out a pew, and he like, get off my property. And then the dad comes out, he's like, oh, just trying to talk. And the dad tries to take a pew at them. And bro, when I tell you, I'm up here like, what the heck is going on? Now, again, we're in Texas. It's a big, big red state. And I'm just watching this movie like, oh my goodness, are these boys going to be unalived right here? Well, they get to this one place. And one thing that I will tell you is that you can bond with anybody over anything. Now, remember I mentioned that the one boy, Kevin, happened to drive a car, and the car that he was driving was a Charger. Well, he bonds with this other guy in their garage named Chris. And Chris is like, I got cameras coming out, what's going on? So they're like, we just witnessed an unaliving. Can we please talk to you? So they start talking to Chris. And Chris essentially is like, okay, this makes sense. Chris used to be a coach. Chris and Ty bond because Ty is an athlete. Can't remember if he's basketball or football. Essentially, everybody has a right mind, but again, that's why I say religious cult. They all feed into Pastor Andrew's light, and you would have too. Essentially, the reason why this is called the Gates is because it is a gated community that essentially is a religious cult. And the reason why I say religious cult is because he had these people brainwashed. James Vanderbeek had these people believing anything that he said. And you find out later on in the movie that he essentially was cheating on his wife, so that's why he tries to unalive this woman. And he does not stop. He starts unaliving people left and right. I didn't do an unaliving count in this one, so I apologize. But Kevin throws a drink in Chris's face. And why does he throw a drink in? Because essentially Chris is pointing a pew at him like, you said that my pastor did what? You're all lying. My pastor would never do that. So they run out of his house. All of a sudden, they're about to run outside, and they see Jacob with the officer, and they're like, oh goodness, the pastor's there. So they're running, and they get separated. They have a kind of like a little argument, so to speak. But in my brain, I'm like, this is clearly a cult. Because how do you tell somebody that somebody has unalived somebody, and you like, no, that's not the case. I'm like, bruh, this is wild and wonky. Well, Derek is running, and he sees this black woman, and this black woman, he like runs up to her and approaches her, and he talks to her, and she's like, hey, yo, like, you need to get out of these clothes because it's kind of tattered clothing, and puts him in this nice white polo. In short, she talks to him up until he says, my goodness, well, Pastor Jacob. And she's like, you don't know. Like, my parents, the home that my parents and me grew up in, is a Dorf star compared to this beautiful, and this isn't her words, this is my sci-fi brain talking, compared to the house that I live in now. The homes that we were building are over like 1 billion. Like, they were very fancy homes. And I'm telling you, I'm like, bro, what the heck? So she betrays him too. She calls the cops. He starts running. Now Ty is with Kevin, and then they meet this girl. Roxy is basically kind of forced to be at the party she doesn't want to be at. Essentially, a whole bunch of stuff happens. I want you guys to watch this movie, but the bros, the Chads, I don't remember their names, essentially try to use music because Roxy likes music, and they use music to try to be like, oh yeah, so Roxy, basically, if you lay a track with us, we can lay with you and all this other stuff. And essentially, they try to jump Kevin and tell Kevin like, look, bro, you need to lay this track or you ain't getting out of this place. Because that's why they went to the party. They saw younger kids and hoping that, people around their age. Now, again, this is the second instance. The first instance was the car where Kevin used his talents. And then he used his talent for music. He tried to rap. He's not a rapper. He's a singer. You find out that he's a singer, and he's a great singer with it. And again, I always say the music unites people. So going back to the Super Bowl, you may not have understood what Bad Buddy was saying because you don't speak Spanish, but good music unites people. And we find out that the code to exit the gate is 2504 or 2504. And Ty hits the Chad, the jerk guy, because he essentially is trying to like get funny with Roxy, and we ain't having that. So you then meet Officer Bobby Chambers. And Bobby Chambers is, man, when I tell you, like, he is just like, get out, you can tell he's scared. But he, again, is listening to everything that Pastor Jacobs is saying. Doesn't matter if Jacob says go left, he's going left. He says go right, he's going right. He's listening to everything. So he says, when you get these boys, bring them to me. Don't do anything else, but bring them to me. So he finds Kevin, officer does. And officer brings Kevin to Pastor Jacobs, is like, hey, look, go through my house, you're not going to find nothing. They don't find nothing. Why? Because the lady who's been unalived is in the trunk of whose car? They're the three boys' cars. So that makes it even a little bit more cringy and crazy. Essentially, Pastor Jacob tries to barter and say, hey, we need a lawyer. So if you happen to like do this, blah would be good. Last moment, no, I'm good. And here comes Chris started asking questions. Chris was like, well, whose car is that? Why would this boy give me his real name? Ty's real name was like Tyson or Tyson, or I can't remember the exact full spelling of it, but he kept saying, why would this boy give me his real name? Why would he give me his real name? Because he was telling the truth. So that made Chris think. So speeding up a little bit, because I know we've been talking for a little bit, and I'll try to keep these under 15 minutes. Man, Chris is unalived by Pastor, or Officer Bobby is unalived by Pastor. And so essentially it's the three boys. We find out the girl is not unalived. She is in the back of the car unconscious. He hit her head, but he ain't unalive her. Bro, when I tell you, it gets to the point where they're about to unalive Pastor Jacobs, and shout out to mother loving Derek, he runs him over with a car. He hits him with a car. So they think they're home and clear. They get out the gate, they go home, they drop people off. Now, Pastor Jacob has this white Hummer. This, the EV Hummers, the new ones you see. Kevin drops Derek and Ty off at his house. And the reason, again, is like, good. Well, guess who's at the house? Because he had looked at Kevin's ID. Pastor Jacob, he has a pew pulled on his sister and his brother. His sister and his mother. Yeah, it's that serious. It's that serious, guys. And I'm like, what the fudge cakes? How did this happen? He had your ID. He looked at your name, Derek. He knew exactly where you lived. Well, when I tell you I am freaking out, because I'm like, they have made it this far. They hit him with the, again, they did hit Pastor with the car, but he deserved it because he did unalive two people. Like, why, what are we doing? You unalive two people. You don't get to survive. Well, remember that cop from earlier? Derek building those bridges? He sees the pastor's white Hummer, tells the cop, sees Derek. Basically, Pastor tries to take a pew out. They're like, drop it. He's like, no, the man behind you is lying. He's like, drop it. And lo and behold, he did, pew tie in his knee. He didn't unalive it. Basically, he good. And, that was good. And at the end of the movie, everyone survives. Pastor Jacob is unalived. And I'm just like, this is a good movie. This was a really good movie. So again, the three black boys, Derek, Ty, Kevin, are still alive, which made me super happy. And I made a friend in the movie. Her name was Mindy. I'm like, hey, Mindy, what up, though, Mindy? And she was like, what's your name? I'm like, it's Ramil, like RuPaul and the meal you eat. And we bonded over that. But again, what I will tell you is this movie was a great movie. To me, it was not a show and tell. It did not show and tell you anything in the trailers. It gave you the premise, but it did a really good job. If it comes on a streaming service, or even if you have the ability to watch it on a matinee, I know movies are cheaper on Tuesdays, check it out. This has been Duality, and have a great day.